Hey everybody, welcome to the RR Live Wellness Unfiltered podcast. My name is Robert Reams, the host and the producer of the show, and as always, I'm here to inform and inspire you, to educate you, and to motivate you so that you can take this information, put it to work in your lives, share it with your loved ones and your families. I've come a long way to have this opportunity to sit in front of you today. Let's go. Hey everybody, once again, welcome to the RR Live Wellness Unfiltered podcast. My name is Robert Reams, the host and the producer of the show. Thank you once again for tuning in. Thousands and thousands of views are coming in, and I really appreciate the support that you all have given this show. We're here at Spread the Positive Studios today at Murfreesboro, Tennessee. My man Trent runs the show here. I want to thank also Terry and his team at Nashville Fit Media Network. This is going really great. My mission is to get information out to you. Tools, skills that you can use, educate, motivate, so that you can put this into your lives, enhance your lives, spread it to your loved ones and your family. That's what this is all about. Now today, this is a very important and vital logistic show that I'm going to do today. Now, what do I mean by logistics? I give a lot of theories out there about the reasons why we do things. The reason that we do things. What is underneath the logistics? The logistics are the how-tos, the facts, the things like when you say, well, what do I do, Rob? Tell me what to do. Sets, reps, nutrition, food, sleep, all this logistic stuff, which is great. It is the operational force of what you do out there every day to enhance your lives. We need logistics, and this is a big logistic. But what I'm going to undercurrent and build underneath this particular logistic, it's actually going to be two very important logistics today, is the reasoning behind and the forces behind and the illusions that are created all around this. Sugar. Sugar. You ever heard of that stuff, Trent?
Yes, sir.
Alcohol. Now, I'm talking about excess alcohol here. I'm not talking about having a glass of wine here and there, which, hey, I love to do. But we're going to talk about sugar. We're going to talk about alcohol. Now, just to give you some impact here and give you a visual at the beginning, think about this. Sugar. Here in America, per person. Now, again, I want you to visualize this. The stuff that I'm going to give you today, I want you to wrap your brain around it. I want you to really let it penetrate your mind and your soul and think about the impact again of what it is doing in your lives and the people that you love and the people around you. You're wondering, like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Well, you may get some insight on this today. Think about per person. Think about per person. We take in every year, get this, between 150 and 170 pounds of sugar per person.
Wow.
150 to 170 pounds. So say somebody like me, let's say I take in 10 pounds. Okay, so if we're averaging that out between me and somebody else, if we're going per person here, if we take 2 times 170, which is 340, and I take 10 pounds of that, that means the next person over is taking in 330 pounds of sugar per year. Now, what's that look like? Well, I'm going to imagine a Ford F-350, Dodge Ram, something in that range, maybe even one of those U-Hauls that you rent to move across the country. I think you could almost fill that up with sugar consumption. That's a lot of sugar, and it's creating a lot of damage. Here's the thing, folks. Sugar is a poison. At the end of the day, it's a poison. It's a slow poison. You're not going to get knocked out and die because you take in some sugar. Because you go down and get a candy bar, you're going to be fine immediately. But over time, this is what I'm talking about. And everybody here knows what I'm talking about. We're talking about diabetes. We're talking about heart disease. We're talking about obesity. We're talking about cancers. Think about cancers are fed. Cancer cells are fed by sugar. They're like this. When they see sugar. Sugar is not good, and especially the processed stuff that we take in. Now, I'm going to go over fruit sugar in a second. Think about the processed and the ultra-processed foods that we take in. 70 to 80% of your grocery store, I've said that figure on this show before, 70 to 80% of your grocery store is processed sugar or ultra-processed foods. 70 to 80% of the American nutrition plan, and I use that term nutrition once again loosely, is ultra-processed foods, and these are poisons. What is underneath a poison? The A word, addiction. You're addicted to these things. And we're going to talk about alcohol here today too. Once again, like I said, these are the main two things. But addictions come in many forms. And what is the driving force behind an addiction? Dopamine. Dopamine. It's a very, very, very short-lived rush of feel good, an illusion of feeling good, and then you go down. You lose that dopamine. And that dopamine gets pushed down the line further and further, so you need more to get that same rush. And eventually, it just gets out of control. Now, let's talk about control for a second. Think about what control is. When you have an addiction to something, when you need sugar, when your blood sugar is low, when you're feeling low and you need sugar, or you need to go out and have too many drinks, and think about that. You're in search for control. You want control. You want control over the situation because you're not feeling very good. You're getting a little antsy. You're like, man, okay, I got to grab something. I need that dopamine. I need that dopamine hit, so I'm going to grab my addiction of choice. The mechanism or the thing. And that's what we do with sugar. Now think about this. When I talk about sugar being a poison, which again it is, I mean, technically it is, alcohol is a poison. It goes into your system. Your body treats it like a poison. That's why it shoves everything aside when you take alcohol in, and your body deals with that alcohol, that acetate that it turns into. So what happens to fat? You store it. Talk about people that drink a lot, drink excessively. That's why they store fat. Your body's not going to burn fat when it gets that poison rushing. It's going to take care of that poison first. Fat turns to fat. You get fat. You get fat with excess sugar consumption. You get fat with processed sugar consumption. We wonder why America is 75 to 80% obese and overweight when 60, 70 years ago, before all this ultra processing really dominated our grocery stores, obesity was like something odd. Like somebody was hugely obese. They may even be in the circus. Not anymore. You look all over. Go to your mall, go to your schools, go to your work, look outside, look at the person next to you in the traffic. Obesity is everywhere, folks. This poison effect is everywhere. And think about this. I have to ask you a question. Would you, in your right mind or any mind, if you went into CVS or Walgreens or Walmart or your local grocery store and you walked in to the candy aisle and you saw a bottle there, or you saw a bag, and the bag said poison, or the bag said potential poison, or the bag said eventual poison, meaning like I'm going to take it in and at some point it's really going to have a negative effect on me. Would you buy it? Would you even look at it? You'd probably go to the manager and go, what are you selling this stuff for? What do you think you're doing when you go into the candy aisle at some of these stores and all the bright colors and everything that's attached to that candy? It's fun. It's party. It makes you feel good. And this is why kids get enticed. It's colorful, it's beautiful, and you want it. You just start stuffing your cart with it. You take it home and you eat it. Halloween's coming up. We celebrate a holiday with this where we give kids bags of candy. I always thought this many, many years and still do. I always thought Halloween was some sort of a holiday that was, or at least the trick or treat part of this holiday was some sort of a holiday that was devised by the American Pediatric Association or the American Medical Association or the American Dental Association to create that pipeline of business down the road. Think about that. Call me a killjoy. Look, I'm coming from personal experience. I've done all this stuff. I'm coming to you as a professional, but I'm also coming to you as a person that has been addicted to these things. Couple stories for you. You know about my childhood obesity. If you go to my socials and you see that kid in that, the one that I post a lot, I'm sitting there and I've got like a button down. It's a red and white stripe thing going on, and I've got braces and I've got that kind of red bowl cut. I'm 13 years old at the time. And I had to take my face bow off for the photo shoot. And I remember that like it was yesterday. I was fat, I was miserable, and I was addicted to ultra-processed foods. Takeout, everything from McDonald's to processed pizza, fish and chips, all kinds of candy, Starburst, Nestle's Crunch, Hershey bars, ice cream bars. You know, I've told this story. I don't know if I've told it on this version of the podcast yet, but me and my great buddy, Joey, I'm not going to bring Joey's last name into it, but Joey and everybody that knows me growing up, they know who Joey is. We were heavy together. And we used to go to Super X, which is kind of the version of CVS today or Walgreens. We used to go right across the street. I lived right across the street. And we'd go to Super X. And we would each buy either a 6 or a 12 pack of fudge bars. Now, we didn't just go get one fudge bar. We each got a box. We'd go outside in the curb and sit down and we'd people watch, and each one of us would devour our box of fudge bars. Why'd we do it? Because we could. Because A, I didn't know any better. It made me feel good in the moment. Remember about that addiction? I was addicted to processed foods and sugars, and it was there for me. And it was something that I could get away with because my parents, they wouldn't allow that. So I always had money. I had a paper route, and I mowed lawns as a kid, so I always had cash. What did I do? I didn't invest my cash wisely, obviously. I invested it in ultra-processed junk food. But I conquered that. And here I sit today. And I'm going to let you in on another story. I was thinking about this coming down here, whether I should share this or not. But I am going to share it. And in that same picture, around that time, I was 13 years old. I was a 7th grader at Westside Junior High. We used to call it junior high. Now it's called middle school. And I was at the peak of my obesity. I was at the peak of my unhappiness. I was starting to get slow because when I was younger, I've shared this too, when I was younger in sports, being heavy and being bigger than everybody was a huge payoff in a positive direction for me because I could throw the ball a mile, punt, pass, and kick champion. I could take, we had the length of our football field in 6th grade. When we played touch football in 6th grade, our teams was 45 yards. Now that little Voight football was a smaller football than a normal size football is, but I could take that football and throw it the length of the field. I was 12 years old. I had a lot of weight behind that throw. I could hit the ball a mile. I mean, when I went up to bat in our baseball and softball games back then, they had shifts for me that were built for me because I could hit the ball so far. So I was like, psh, this is great being heavy. I love being fat. I'm going to eat more. But then I got slow. Then I got tired. Then I got challenged. Because the story I want to share with you very quickly is when I was in junior high, again about 7th grade, somebody comes into one of my classrooms one day and they said, Bob, I was known as Bob then. They said, Bob, can you come with us? We're going to come down to the office for a second. The nurse wants to talk to you. I'm like, wow, nurse wants to talk to me. I feel fine. Feel okay. The nurse wants to talk to me. Come on down. So I got up and I followed this person, this office assistant, down to the office. And I went in there and I saw the assistant principal and I saw the principals and I waved to everybody because everybody knew me. And I go into this office and they said, well, Bob, we're concerned that you may have a learning disability. You may have a learning disability. And I didn't really know quite what that meant at the time. So I just rolled with it. Okay. And they sat me down and they gave me at the time some pretty simple testing just to kind of test me to see if I did actually have this quote unquote learning disability that they thought I had. Well, it turns out I didn't really have a learning disability, but I was reading and comprehending well underneath where I should have been at that time. And again, I'm 13 years old. Now, think about what I just said leading into this. I was at the peak of my obesity. I was at the peak of my ultra-processed and ultra-processed sugar addiction at that time. My brain was rewired in the wrong direction. Now, that day I left and I still was in regular classes. I mean, they didn't take me, down into any special needs or anything like that. But that was a wake-up call for me, along with the other factors that came in socially. I was more slow because I was heavy. I sat on the sidelines at the dances where I was really strong in athletics. I was faster, I was bigger, I was stronger. Now I became slower. And I couldn't keep up. And I fell way behind. And all that rush, because I would get those dopamine rushes, you better believe it, I would get those from being able to do things and accomplish things very quickly in a moment's notice without thinking about the big picture. So it was that time that I started to take this in the other direction. I started to take this all seriously, my health, my intake. It really hit me. And I can remember this very, very specifically because that's why today, when I talk about diets, there's such bullshit because I knew this innately when I was 13, 14 years old. I didn't need a diet. Diets were big back then. I needed to change the entire spectrum. I needed to change the deal of what I was doing. I needed to change the fact that me and Joey would sit there in the curb and eat a six pack of fudge bars. I needed to change that behavior. We've talked about collective behavioral change on this show, which I'm going to bring up here today. I needed a collective behavioral change in my life. And I put it to work. And I conquered those addictions. And I fluctuated all the way through junior high. Freshman year, I got really thin. I got really happy. And there's a difference between happiness, folks, and dopamine rushes. And I'm going to explain that here in a second. Into high school. Started to party a little bit, of course. Got back into, a little bit of overconsumption sometimes. So I fluctuated a little bit. Got really healthy. Then my senior year, I gained a whole bunch of weight again because I wanted to be bigger for my senior year in football. And I had a positive purpose for that, so I did it. But then that was done, and the consumption that was supporting that weight gain and that muscle gain that I had, which was a very positive thing, when I stopped doing that, but kept up the consumption, boy, I got fat again. And I can remember there was a prom picture my senior year. I was like, holy crap. And then into my freshman year in college, dominoes on speed dials and keggers. Yeah, I'm human just like the rest of you out there. I've been through all this. This is why I know how to guide you in the right direction, because I myself have been in the wrong direction. Those other influencers and quote unquote experts and fake gurus and self-appointed gurus, they read something in a book or they go get a weekend certification or they, they read some kind of a book and they think, wow, I can get a ring light, I can get an internet connection, and I can be a guru. Well, look, folks, I've been doing this over 42 years professionally, and I've had a childhood full of this. So this is why I sit here today at Spread the Positive Studios, and I share this stuff with you. But I fluctuated all the way through, even college. Then I drove out to LA. And by the grace of God, I had physical activity that I was doing because I was a dancer. I was in musical theater, so I danced, which kept me really fit. I still had problems with nutrition. I dabbled in some things, but I cut way back in terms of the A word, addiction. I cut way back on the sugar, and I got it together. And I joined a health club, and I've shared this story too, but it was episodes way back, so I'm going to share it quickly again. I was a member of a club called Rocky's Racket World. I joined that club because it was around the block, it was cheap, and I could take aerobics classes. And I went in one day, and I discovered these classes, and this was pretty great. For what it was like $20 a month at the time, unlimited classes. And being the competitive spirit that I am, I would go up and compete with some of these instructors. And I would frequently take the instructor's class that was the head instructor. Her name was Nancy. And we got to know each other, and there was this camaraderie between everybody that took the classes. And so one day, before one of the classes, and we're all waiting outside, the other class is getting ready to end, and I'm waiting outside there with everybody else, and there's, again, this camaraderie. We all know each other, and Nancy comes running down the hallway, head instructor. She clears through the crowd, and she hands on my shoulder. She says, "Rob, I need you to start teaching tomorrow." She looked me right in the eye. She had her hands on my shoulders. Tall girl. I'm looking up. And I looked around, and everybody's looking at me, and I said, "Okay." That was the moment that shifted me forever. And I have never looked back. I became a certified aerobics instructor. I then got into personal training. Fast forward all the stuff that I've been able to do, multiple certifications in education, professional experience, magazines, TV. You guys all know the deal. And I never looked back. So this is why I share this stuff with you today, because this stuff had impact on my life, and it has impact on your life. You just may not be aware of it. Now, I'm going to take a couple different situations, and I want you to ask why. What do you think so far, Trent?
Man, you're on point.
It's
alarming.
Yeah, it is. It's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lift the logistics off the page for everybody. Because we know when our diet and our nutrition gets out of control, and we're not sleeping well, and we're not taking good care of ourselves, and we're not using that optimum self-care and putting that to work in our lives, we know that it's not good for us. We know that that's detrimental. We know that it's taking our quality and quantity of life down in the wrong direction. But yet we still do it. We still do it. Think about what I said earlier about when you go into the grocery store, when you go into Walgreens. But think about when you go into the grocery stores, again, and you go down that aisle of the candy store, and it's bright and it's colorful and it smells good. You smell the sugar through those bags, and you buy it. You take it home and you consume it, and your kids consume it. But what if that same aisle had those signs that said poison or potential poison or eventual poison, like I said? Would you buy it? Hell no, you wouldn't buy it. But you continue to buy it when it's disguised, or when it gives you the illusion that it's not doing the things that I'm talking about here today. And again, I'm trying to, if this is a lot for you to take and a lot for you to take in, I'm meaning it that way, because I need this to have impact for you in your life. I'm here to help you. I'm good. I'm already taken care of. I've learned this stuff. I know what to do, and I implement it. And the people around me that I teach and that take in my information and actually use it properly, they know it too. Somebody today write me an email talking about, I have a corporate wellness program. I said, we're trying to get this company to do to pull the trigger on a corporate wellness program, a positive thing. And this person emails me, said, well, I'll go to bat for you, Reamsy. I'll go to bat for you, Reamsy, but I'm not promising you anything. It's like, wait a minute, you don't need to go to bat for me. I already know this shit. I already saved my own life. 8 weeks ago yesterday, I was paralyzed on a ventilator in the ICU at Williamson Medical Center, fighting for my life. I came out of it unscathed. I had cancer at the same time that I didn't even know about. My work and my lifestyle and what I teach saved my own life. You don't need to worry about you don't need to worry about helping me out. I want to help you out. You're the one that needs help. People that are consuming and addicted to all this stuff are the people that need help. So, a couple things I want to bring up before we get into alcohol. There's another situation that I know of, and you think about this with kids' schools. Think about young kids. And I'm going to give you a visual again for a second. If you're a parent and you've taken your kid to a birthday party, how many birthday parties do you have between like 2 and like probably 8, 9, 10 years old for kids? I mean, they're every year for every one of their friends. I mean, birthday party, birthday party, birthday party, birthday party. And there's always some really good, great activity associated with it, which is fantastic. Maybe there's go-karts, or maybe that's it's one of those places where they, kids go around and everything's padded and they can just go crash into shit for 2 hours, which is fantastic. They can go play and throw and run and jump and sprint and climb, which is what kids are supposed to do. But then what happens? And I know why they do it, because I probably did the same thing unconsciously, or when we had these parties. We used to have bowling parties for my daughter Audrey. But you have all this physical activity, you wear the kid out, the kid's like, oh God, they sit down, and then they sit down to the cake and the juice after all the activity. Man, does all that stuff rev up again? That hyperactivity, that ADHD, that hyperactivity, that anxiety, all that stuff. And all of a sudden that kid who was tired from all the activity, which is how it's supposed to be, gets revved up on all that sugar. And it's time to go. Time to pick up your kid right after the cake and right after the juice. And you go in, and the kid gets in your car, and they are wired for sound. And as a parent, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, they aren't wired for sound after all that good, great, healthy physical activity. They're wired for sound because of the poison they just consumed. And again, it's dressed up in cake, and it's dressed up in candy and juice packets, which are a disaster, by the way. And then there's this hyperactive kid that you have. And we've got to learn to take care of our kids, because our kids are our future, and we owe this to them. We've got to come to the rescue of this, which is why I'm trying to build a foundation of impact for you, to get it through everybody's head, how important this is for our world. If you go back 8, 10 episodes of the RR Live Wellness Unfiltered podcast, I did an episode of how can we change the world? Can we change the world? And how do we do it? And I talk about the fact that across the board, if we could get more metabolically healthy, if we could have a 20% increase across the board, and again, that means somebody's going to give 100 and somebody's going to give 2. But if it's a 20% across the board improvement in metabolic health, which is the foundation of all this, metabolic health, mental and physical, think how we could improve the quality of what's going on in this world. And so when I say this stuff, I'm talking about impact for your kids. Now, you got a hyperactive kid that's unable to focus. and they're having maybe learning disabilities. Maybe they can't read like you, or like at the level. Remember, I got pulled into the office, so I know this. I've got personal experience with this stuff. I got pulled into the office, and if you think about that now, I'm a 2-time published author. I helped and contribute to another book that was a New York Times bestseller, and I've penned multiple media articles. So I kind of overcame that, didn't I? Did I overcome it with some sort of like medication? No. I overcame it because I got rid of the poison that was causing it. It was causing my obesity. It was causing my inability to focus. And I haven't looked back. This is why I share this stuff with you. So you got the kid that can't focus, have trouble learning. They're sneaking the candy in. Remember, think about the barrels of sugar that I was talking about at the beginning. 150 to 170 pounds of sugar per person every year. So again, you spread that through a bunch of kids. You know, if I could drive a Ford F-350 through here, you could fill the back of that truck pretty good with that 150, 170 pounds of sugar. So what do you expect? And then you want to medicate the kid. Don't take away the sugar. Don't take away the poison. Medicate the kid. Think about that for a second. Does that make any sense? When you could easily, and you don't have to just abstain. Yeah, we want to have a treat. We want to have a treat. I love a treat. I'm not saying that you can't have it at all, especially as a kid. But man, when it's like just constant, when it's sneaking it underneath their desk, or it's underneath their pillow, or you find wrappers in their bed or in the wastebasket of your kid's room. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the A word once again, addiction. If you can pull back on the level of addiction, you can regain control. And you can allow the kid to thrive like they deserve to. And they won't need medication. That stuff came up pretty strong in the 50s for that. Well, we ate real food and we were active. Kids are not physically active anymore, or like they should be, or like they need to be, and they're eating too much sugar. It's a very simple issue to fix in theory. We as parents, we as teachers, we got to start taking responsibility, because I'll tell you something, the sugar industry, they're not going to do shit about it because they're making big money on you, and we're suffering from it. Now let's talk about alcohol for a second. Now again, excess alcohol. I love a glass of wine frequently, but a glass of wine as compared to half a bottle of whiskey or vodka in a day, and you want to lose weight, you want to be at peak levels, let's think about what alcohol and sugar do in excess. Anxiety, depression, slower metabolic rate. That means your engine of life, the speed and the quality is going to be dramatically slower than if you would take some of this stuff out or at least curtail it. So again, these two things, what I'm talking about today, it's not a poison that's going to knock you out and you're going to fall over right here. But it's an eventual poison. That's how I say, when you go into that store, would you buy that bag of candy if it said to you, eventual poison? If it said on the bag, it said, eventually in your life, you will be poisoned. Would you buy it? Probably not. But what does it say? Or what does it have? It has all the colors. And then we look at alcohol. We look at excessive drinking. We look at the commercials, and it's always associated with partying, with happiness. You're sexy. You're on top of the world when you drink that whiskey. When you have that tequila, when you have that vodka, wow, the lighting, the mood. You're thin, you're attractive, you're the life of the party, aren't you? Now, is that reality? It's false advertising. That's lying to you. That's manipulating you. That's creating the illusion. Now let's go back to, again, what an addiction is. It's an attempt, a feeble attempt, by the way, to get control. The fact that you need that in excess means you have no control. You don't have it once you take it in either, because that dopamine rush is very, very fast. It goes up, it goes down, you need more. Anxiety, depression, you're slower. Where's the payoff? Ask yourself. Trent, what I'm talking about, I mean, am I missing something? Where's the payoff in all that?
Can't call it.
Yeah, it's because you can't call it because it doesn't exist.
Correct.
It doesn't exist. The payoff is your demise, the demise in the quality of your life. Now, I went off today on some of this stuff, and this is a rant. I realize that. And I did it on purpose because I want you to think. I want you to think about excess. I want you to think about addictions. I want you to think about things that you think you have control over, but you don't. What do we do with addictions? What are we doing with sugar and excess alcohol consumption when it comes to our life, the quality of our life? And I'm talking about all the other things I've talked about with anxiety, depression, AD, all that kind of stuff, being unable to focus. I'm talking about weight. I'm talking about the quality of your health. Remember, I talk about working from the inside out, body, mind, and spirit. You have to take this stuff in. You have to embrace this stuff inside, body, mind, and spirit. When you embrace this stuff, when you embrace what I'm talking about, which is underneath the logistics, because again, the logistic, just don't eat processed sugar. The logistic, just don't drink excessive alcohol. We know the logistic, but we still do it. So I'm trying to go underneath that today. And I'll probably do this again periodically, and I will definitely inject this in other shows. Because if you look at the line of shows that I've done well before my work here at Spread the Positive Studios, but especially here at Spread the Positive Studios recently, if you look at the line of shows, I talk about marketing. The demise of health in America? Well, it doesn't have to be. Why do we take in some of these addictions? Why do we succumb to all this? Why do we lay down integrity of what we really know is right and still do it anyway? We're manipulated by the marketing. Take a look at those things. Take a look at the episode that I mentioned before about how can we change the world? Can we change the world, and how do we do it? A collective behavioral change in metabolic health. And I'm talking metabolic health physically and mentally. All the other episodes that you see, the chiropractic episode, I mean, that's taking care of yourself from the inside out. The episode I did here recently with Amy Rivera, talking about the consumption connection. Man, this is all about the consumption connection today. I got to get you to think, folks, because unless you start embracing this and personalizing it and making it mean something to you, remember, I've talked about this before. It has to mean something to you. There has to be something at stake for you to modify or make changes in your life. And if you don't grasp whatever that is for you, you're not going to change. That train's going to keep on running, and eventually it flies off the track, and there ain't no backup track. You done. It's over. Now I'm going to check my notes here and see if I missed anything, but I don't think I did. I don't know, Trent, I covered quite a bit, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. That was good.
But again, why do I do these shows? Why do I sit here? Because I want to help you. You're going to hear things here that you're not going to hear other places. I got no agenda other than to help you. I'm not paid off to hold a cereal box here like some of these athletes. That's another thing that you've heard me mention on this show. these athletes and celebrities who could make way more impact than I can. Their platforms dwarf mine. But what do they choose to do with their platforms? Drive the machine that continues to poison us. And it's poisoning us physically and mentally, but it's also spilling into our world. And all the crazy shit that you see out there is a result, largely, of everything I'm talking about today. We're out of control. We're under the illusion that we're in control. That's why we go to these things. That's why we get that dopamine rush. That's why we go for it. But then it goes and it fades, and we need to get more control. But do you, folks, when you're constantly in search of control, you have no control? And I'll leave you with this. All the work I do with body image and self-image and self-esteem, what's one of the main things I talk about? If you go in to that chapter in Anti-Diet, the Paradigm is Shifted. And by the way, you can get this on the Amazon link. It's attached to the show synopsis. It's everywhere on my Facebook feed. It's everywhere on my Instagram feed. Go to it, because everything I'm talking about and more is in here. You can read it. The information in here saved life 8 weeks ago yesterday, and that's why I'm sitting here and talking about it today. But if you go in and you hear that work that I talk about with body image, self-esteem, what's one of the main things I say with that? I say lead with your gifts. What does that mean? That means live your life with purpose. That means find what makes you tick. What gives you purpose? What gives you the incentive to open up your eyes in the morning and pop out of that bed, punch up that coffee, and go? Or do you even have that? Do you even do that? Do you struggle to get out of bed because you've got no purpose? You haven't discovered your gifts. First, you have to discover them. Then you have to lead with them. And guess what happens after that? Dopamine doesn't have shit effect on your life. You've way overachieved that. You've way superseded that little dopamine hit that you get, or that little rush, or that little tingle that you get from that sugar, which then you crash, or that alcohol, or that addiction, whatever it is, gambling, video games, sex, whatever it is, whatever gives you that rush. When you find that purpose, when you find your gifts, and you lead with that, you won't need all this other stuff. You wake up in the morning, and that'll be your rush. And guess what? Your gifts and your purpose, that's not a momentary rush. That's a life rush. That drives you. That drives you every second of the day, even when you get down, and we all do. Even when you get a little depressed, you'll bounce right back, because you will have a foundation of happiness, of clarity, of direction, purpose, of focus. So find that. You'll find the control that you're looking for. Dig deep. Go back to past episodes. Order the doggone book and start reading it. Get it on Kindle if you don't like to read. Embrace this stuff. Let it penetrate you and your lives and the people around you. I want this world to be a better place. I think everybody knows right now we're going in the wrong direction. We're going in the wrong direction. It's just the way it is. But it doesn't have to be that way. And if you start embracing some of this stuff that I'm talking about, we'll start to go back in the right direction. That's the message, everybody. As I close out some of my on-the-fly videos and I close out this podcast, that's the message, everybody. God bless. Hey, everybody, thanks again for tuning in to the RR Live Wellness Unfiltered podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the show. And don't forget the Revive and Sustain Wellness app. Go to www.reviveandsustain.com and download the app. 42 years of my experience at your fingertips. Till next time, everybody, in great health.